The movie starts with a detective named Clayton, who is about to retire from his work. The detective had solved many cases in his life, except for his first case, in which, behind the murder of a whole family, he couldn't find the murderer. This was his passion, and the decision to quit this was not easy for him. He was still checking the files of his old solved cases where he gets a letter from a mental hospital. He didn't want to work because of his retirement, but for some reason, his interest in this case was increasing. It was quite late at night. He was awake when his wife came to him, and asked him the reason for his disturbance. The detective, looking at his son's picture, tells her what else could be the reason. That's when my past, my guilt, it came to know that because of a small mistake of the detective, his family had a very bad accident in the past, in which his son died and his daughter was paralyzed. He couldn't get out of this guilt for the rest of his life. Today was the birthday of the detective's daughter. In the morning, he puts a birthday card on his daughter's bed, and leaves for the hospital, from where a doctor was repeatedly calling him by writing a letter. Upon entering the hospital, at the reception, his gun is taken first. Because it was a mental hospital, and it was forbidden to take any kind of weapon here. When the detective comes to the doctor's room, the doctor welcomes him as if he was waiting for him. When the detective asks the doctor the reason for calling him here, the doctor tells him about a patient who was very strange. He was not crazy. He called himself a soldier of the Civil War. The Civil War had happened about 100 years ago. According to the records, that man has died in the Civil War. But the strange thing is that this man was found alive 20 years ago. It was not possible that the people of that time were still alive. The detective felt that the doctor's words were childish. He asks the doctor, "Why did you call me here?" The doctor tells him that to meet that man, he has been with me for many years and he takes your name. According to him, he will tell you his story. In response, the detective says, "Look, doctor, I have retired from this job. I don't have time to solve such cases. And today I can't even meet this man, because today is my daughter's birthday. If you say, then I will send a police officer to record his statement." After hearing detective's words, the doctor shows him a page, on which that man had repeatedly written the name of Detective Clayton. And the same thing compels Drive Clayton to meet that patient. Going to that man, the doctor tells the detective, "I have treated many people, but this man is a little different. As if some power has possessed him. In people's eyes, he is crazy. But I don't think his mental condition is bad at all. And maybe that's why the hospital's old staff was not ready to work with a patient named Daniel." Daniel was also kept away from all patients who had Sister Rose with him, who didn't know much about Daniel's condition. When the detective sees Daniel, he thinks he is a corpse. He tells the doctor, "It's a good joke. I have seen such a rotten corpse for the first time in my life." The detective was saying this because Daniel's face was all bad, like a dead person. There was also a smell of rotting from his body. The doctor says, "Detective, believe me, he is alive." But the detective was convinced by the doctor, when Daniel actually opened his eyes in front of him. The first question the detective asks Daniel is, "Where did you hear my name?" When Daniel answers that in the newspaper, the detective now turns to the doctor and says, "See, I told you, this is just a drama." The detective didn't know anything about Daniel, and he was about to leave. Then Daniel writes his daughter's name on a board, and writes that she is going to die today. Hearing this, the detective gets very angry. He doesn't waste a moment and starts strangling Daniel. The doctor takes him out carefully. Behind him, Daniel keeps laughing like a weird devil. The detective was going crazy in anger. He tells the doctor that Daniel is not really crazy. He is playing a game. He took out information about me first, and now he is threatening me. I need information about every person who met him in this 20-year period. In response, the doctor says, "Believe me, he didn't meet anyone in all these years, except some nurses who gave him medicine or me. Even I don't know much about him. And if you want answers to your questions, you go and talk to Daniel yourself." Inside Daniel's room, we see that even in such a bad condition, Daniel suddenly gets up and sits down. Sister Rose also didn't have a good feeling here, and when the detective and the doctor come to this room, they find Sister Rose unconscious. When she came to her senses, Sister herself remembered how she became unconscious. Her nose was bleeding, and this had never happened to her before. They come to Daniel and start reading the story of Dr. Daniel, which was written by a nurse. This was the time of Civil War when Daniel was fighting for his country. During the war, he is attacked by enemies. At this time, Daniel was also shot, but he did not die in the effect of the bullet. When he came to his senses, he felt that he was badly injured. But thank God, his life was saved. He couldn't even walk. While crawling, he reached the population area. His condition had deteriorated due to excessive bleeding. He now becomes unconscious at one place, and it is shown that someone has brought Daniel home by pulling him. When Daniel came to his senses, he was lying on the bed. His wounds were hurting him a lot. As soon as he tries to move, a lady comes and says, "No, don't move. Your bleeding has been stopped with great difficulty." At the same time, this woman's husband also comes here, to whom Daniel says, "Please take me to a hospital. I need urgent treatment." But this man replies, "Sorry, I can't take you to the hospital because there is no hospital nearby." After saying this, due to the deterioration of his condition, he became unconscious again. 2 days later, when he regained consciousness, the couple was sitting in front of him. That man now says to Daniel, "Look, we are helping you. We are keeping you here, so you will have to obey some of our rules. First, you will not talk about religion or God here. And second, neither we know your name, nor you will know our name. We will not even call each other by names." Here Daniel requests him, that please, tell my companions that I am alive. They themselves will come to my help. But that man replies, "No, we can't do that. Because we are neither a part of the war, nor do we want to be." At night, someone shakes Daniel's bed loudly. Daniel sees that there was no one in his room at that time. He gets a little scared. Now, his urine was also starting to bleed. And seeing this, he had already known that he would not be able to live for many more days. Now the scene shifts to the present, where the doctor is telling the story of Daniel to the detective. The detective, who used to find logic in everything, and solve his case, says to the doctor here, "I don't believe this story. There is no logic in it. Tell me, how did a person live for so many years? And that too, at a time when he is severely injured and severely ill. Do you think this is a miracle?" He says while talking to Sister Rose, "You tell me, what do you think?" Sister Rose, who is already scared, says to the detective, "I don't know. Only a priest will be able to tell this, that this is a miracle or another power." Before the doctor starts telling the story again, Sister Rose excuses him and goes to the washroom, where a strange power, a strange shadow scares her. Here, the detective asks the doctor, who typed this story of Daniel. The doctor says that a nurse typed it, but she died as soon as she typed it. She has a dangerous cancer. Meanwhile, Sister Rose comes to him and says to him, "Please, stop what is happening. I think there is no Daniel in that room. There is some evil power in that room." Sister Rose didn't want to listen to this story anymore. She asks him to call a priest here. But the detective, who didn't believe in the ghosts at all, says no, we will complete this story today, and solve this story today. The doctor starts telling the story, and the scene starts from the same place in the past, where Daniel's condition is very bad. Daniel is now at his couple's house, and he doesn't get any good vibes in this house. He used to think that this family does some evil work. Every night, a strange evil power used to scare Daniel. And one night, a strange, horrifying-looking old woman comes into his room and turns his bed from side to side with full force. Daniel is very scared. He wanted to run away from here, but he couldn't take a step because of the injury. In the morning, Daniel asks the owner of this house about the history of this house. Then the woman tells that this house belonged to her parents. They have been living here for many years, but in the last 10 to 11 years, some strange things happened to them. Like one day, when her mother went to the jungle, when she came back, her condition was very strange. Her face was like she was dead. There was a smell of rotting from the body, she couldn't even walk. Then this strange disease happened to my daughter too. When my daughter was fine, my mother got sick. And when my mother was fine, my daughter got sick. We got a lot of doctors treated, but those doctors died. The crying voice you hear is my daughter's. If you are disturbed by those voices, then I will close all the windows in your room. Daniel says that an old woman also comes here to scare me. This woman thought that Daniel was talking about her mother, who couldn't even walk for many years. And seeing him making fun of her mother, she scolded this man a lot and said, "That you are making fun of us." Daniel says, No, I am not making fun. A really old woman is scaring me. There can be another power too, for which this woman goes out of here without giving any answer. And the scene cuts and shifts back to the present. Because just now Daniel had used the name of some evil power in his story. And Sister Rose also felt that this matter was related to some evil power. So now Sister Rose starts believing what he says. But the detective was not going to believe her. He asks Daniel, "After all, tell me who you are. But why are you telling all these stories?" Before Daniel could answer, the detective remembers that today is his daughter's birthday. He has to go home. He leaves from here, and when he goes out, he finds out that it is snowing heavily. He won't be able to go home. He has to come back to the hospital. All the typed story of Daniel was in his hands. Here he notices that there are many capital alphabets in his story, which make up some words. Now because he couldn't go out of here, the only way he had was to research this story properly. He now suspects the doctor, that he is hiding something from him. So he secretly goes to the doctor's room, and starts searching there. He sees another room behind the doctor's room, where the files of Daniel's case were kept. In this file, there were old pictures of Daniel, where Daniel had written the name of Detective Clayton on his body many times. He now goes to the doctor, and demands him to see Daniel's old room. The detective comes here and says to the doctor, "If you know anything else about this case, then tell me clearly." To which the doctor replies, "I only knew what I told you." And one strange thing was also that the hospital in which Daniel was in, the people of that hospital threw Daniel out of there. Because they believed that whoever stayed with Daniel for a long time, he would get sick and die. And distracting their words, Sister Rose tells him that I know what the problem with Daniel is. There is a shadow of a devil on him. She tells the doctor that we should immediately call a priest. This is not our cup of tea. Then detective, while relaxing Sister Rose, says that I think the nurse who typed all this story, maybe her mental condition was not good. She has also added something to this story, and also wrote information about me. Now they were talking about that suddenly, they hear the scary voice of Daniel from the basement. When these people come to the basement, Daniel was lying on his bed in the same way. The detective now picks up his story again, and tells Sister Rose to write all the capital alphabets in it in a line. Sister Rose starts adding the capital alphabets of the story together from the beginning. When the detective starts reading the last part of the story, and the scenes shift back to the past once again, where it is shown this time that the old lady, who had been on the bed for 13 years, that is, she could not walk, she gets up and comes to Daniel's room to scare him. Daniel sits down scared and falls down. Outside the window, he sees that something had happened to the couple's daughter too. They were both crying. After a while, that woman left Daniel's room. Now the owner of this house came to Daniel's room, and he picked up Daniel and laid him on the bed. He asked Daniel's name for the first time. When he tells Daniel's name, he remembers that this is the same name that his daughter has been calling for many days. He tells Daniel that whether you believe it or not, you are the person who can help us. He tells Daniel that he is possessed by a demon. This demon takes advantage of the weaknesses of the parents, and possesses them. We will be able to get rid of it when someone kills us. After that, the demon will dominate the one who kills us. And because you have no children, you will not be possessed by this demon. You kill us, help us, free us from this painful life. And after that, you will also be able to get out of here. The man says this and leaves. Daniel was very scared of all this. He wanted to run away from here somehow. At night, when he gets up to run away, suddenly a demonic force lifts him in the air. He screams loudly, from which the people of this house come to hear. The man grabs Daniel by the legs and pulls him down. As soon as he comes back, Daniel was very scared of all these things. And because of the fear, he now uses something without thinking, and kills the man who had just pulled him down from the air. After that, he kills his wife, his daughter and his mother. When Daniel killed the old woman and the child, they were both possessed. It was not difficult for Daniel to kill the old woman, and when he went to the girl to kill her, the child was tied up in chains. The child was provoking him to kill her. After killing her, Daniel had left. We were seeing that despite being so injured, Daniel was walking as if nothing had happened to him. Which clearly means that the devil has now possessed him. It turns out that the murder of this family was the case that the detectives had not been able to solve until now. It is shown that even Sister Rose had made a sentence while writing all the capital letters, where it was written, "I am in Daniel." And this was actually a hint given by the devil. And after knowing this, Sister Rose and the doctor both faint. To get rid of this man, the detectives go to get their guns. As soon as he returns with the gun, Daniel was provoking him to kill himself. The devil was actually speaking inside Daniel. After Daniel's death, he leaves Daniel's body and possesses the detective's body. Because as we know, this devil targets the weaknesses of the parents. So in this case, the detective was already weak. He was always guilty that his son died from him, and because of him, his daughter was paralyzed. Daniel tries to explain to Clayton at this time that he should not kill Daniel. Otherwise, the devil will possess him. But the devil in Daniel's body was repeatedly provoking the detective to kill Daniel, because he was tired of staying in Daniel's body. After that, the detective kills Daniel. And as soon as he did this, the devil left Daniel's body and took over the detective's body. Because of possessing him, his face completely changes. He starts to smell from inside and his behavior also changes. He goes straight to his daughter's room. Here, the devil was telling him to hurt his daughter. But the detective was a mentally strong person. He does not fall into the traps of the devil so soon. To save his daughter and his family, he ends himself here. Now because someone else did not kill the detective, the devil could not be transferred to anyone else's body. The devil has to leave his body and go from here. For the detective's daughter, her father's death in front of her eyes was the most painful moment. She was crying with her mom. While on the other hand, we were shown Daniel in the hospital, who is still alive. No one knows how long he will live now. With this, by showing Sister Rose and the doctor alive, the story ends here.